This is part 2 of my interview. I interviewed my host mom again, and I'll just dive right into the questions. So the first one was, what aspects of Spanish culture do you think are most misunderstood by foreigners? She said different things that they do here, like kissing on the cheek or other ways to act appropriate, are misunderstood. Some other things would be like what time they eat, she said. And then I know I said this in the last one, or she did too, but she really appreciates it when people try to learn more about the culture while they're here and the history of Spain. So that's also something that is misunderstood by foreigners. When encountering other cultures, are there any that you have had more differences with? She said all cultures are different from Spain, obviously. But when she's traveled to London, they were a lot less accommodating. Her English isn't that bad, but they didn't take the time to listen to her or help her out very much. And then they were rude to her because she spoke Spanish and her English was not very good, sorry. The next question, how do you deal with resolving conflicts either within your family, with friends, or in your workplace? Are you more direct or indirect, or expressive or restrained? Is this the case with most people you know here in Spain? Within her family, like her kids, she is more direct. When it is other people that are not her immediate family, she handles conflict in a more restrained kind of way. And personally, when I read this question, something stood out to me just that I remembered about her handling conflict. Was it made me think of a time we were eating dinner together, and we always eat at the couch, and I had food in my hand and I sat back on the couch, and she didn't, nobody said anything, so I didn't think anything of it. And then a few days later, her daughter did the same thing, and she asked her to please sit forward and eat over the table. And so I feel like that was her restrained kind of way of telling me, or indirect way of telling me, that I need to eat over the table. Instead of just telling me to my face, she said it to her daughter, and then I understood, basically. Is mental health talked about openly? How are mental health issues addressed with family and friends? How do people deal with mental health issues? Mental health, that it is not something that is super comfortable for her to talk about with many people, but she's open to it and open to learning more about it. Her parents were much less open to talking about this than she is. The next question, how do you feel different genders are treated in the workplace? So she's an accountant, and the group of people that she works with in accounting is relatively small. And she is also one of the more higher up people here. So when she started working, men were treated much better than women, and it's gotten a little bit better since she's been there, but it's still an issue. The last question, do you prefer to stay in the city with holidays such as Semana Santa or Feria, or do you usually prefer traveling during those weeks? And then what are your favorite traditions? Are these weeks spent with your families or friends? So she has 2 kids that are 13 and 16, and they really like to participate in the holidays, especially Feria. They love to get dressed up and just hang out with their friends. So she doesn't usually travel. Some of their favorite traditions are watching the parades for Semana Santa, and then having people in their tent, or I forgot the Spanish word for it, during Feria. And they do sometimes leave at the end of Feria as less people go to it. But she spends it mostly with her kids and then her coworkers, who are some of her closest friends. So yeah, that was my second part.